So just to start off, um, want to just make sure that we have a clear understanding that paid advertising is not mandatory. It is something that is for sure a tool that is very beneficial for us as small business owners and really as brands in general. It is something that think of it as one of the strongest weapons in your toolkit for you as a business owner. But the reason why paid advertising isn't mandatory, but is something that is encouraged, is because if you remember in week one of this course, we talked about how hard it is to really break through on the actual on the platforms because of the algorithm. A lot of it is based off of engagement metrics and all these different metrics and things that have to be happening right in real time to be able to make sure that you rise to the top. And so while all that is happening organically, and you'll hear us talk a lot about organic posting, think about organic posting as everything that we've covered thus far. So things that have no dollars attached to it, but things that you are doing day to day, week in, week out, to be able to boost your profile, your business on social media. But to that point, the reason where paid comes in and is a great tool is because this is a great opportunity for us to be able to understand how to break through that clutter, how to really rise to the top in a lot quicker of a fashion than relying solely on engagement metrics. And so just want to level set for everyone that everything that we're going to cover today is not necessarily something that is mandatory, but hopefully by the end of this session, you'll feel that it's something that you want to potentially take advantage of. You feel like you have at least a foundational understanding of why you should do so. And also, if you think that the information in this session was helpful, what we're open to doing is adding another session into this into this curriculum where we go really deep and do kind of an instructional on how to actually go into the platforms and buy the ads yourself. But today's session is going to be solely focused on understanding really what ads are on social media, what they look like, how they vary by platform, and then why you should use them. Moving forward. So again, just to start over, the reason why we should run ads on social media, again, a lot of it has really everything to do with the algorithm. So from a number standpoint, roughly 2% of branded posts actually ever make it into the newsfeed. And so if you think about it, all of the content that you see within the feed on social media, it's primarily going to be posts that are going to come from your friends, your family, anything that is not necessarily deemed a business per se. And as we talked about in the last session, if you have a business account, it is going to put you into a completely different category as it relates to how you post on social media. And so because of that, Facebook and all the other platforms want to make sure that the user experience is as fluid as possible. It doesn't create a great user experience for their customers if every time you get on the platform, someone is selling you something, or it just feels like it's a marketplace and not something where you want to go to see content that you actually care about. And so that's where paid advertising comes in, because it allows you to actually reach a lot of the people that may be potentially interested in your business, or are people that you've identified, whether from a region or from some kind of demographic information, is someone that's valuable to you in your business. And so paid advertising, which again, for Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all these platforms, not only is it generating money for them because we're essentially paying them to be able to give us preferential treatment within the platform, so to speak, but by doing so, it is also allowing you to be able to have an intimate conversation with a potential customer in a very quick but organic fashion, where you are able to, even in that quick moment, be able to get them to take the desired action that you have. So that's kind of the why of what you want to be able to do. But just to level set, as I mentioned, anything organic. So again, think of all the conversations that we've had before. As we said, everything that we've covered over the last 3 sessions is really free. All of these things are free gems of ways that you can really build your social community to be able to have them, your followers and potential new followers, engage with your posts as much as possible, share your content, respond to your content. And so because it's free, there's not necessarily a guarantee in terms of who is actually going to see it. Because again, a lot of it does rely on who's already following your business, It relies on the hashtags that you use. There's so many other factors that are at play that by solely relying on organic, there's a lot that's left to chance. And so you may have a higher likelihood of reaching the person that you're looking for, but there's also no guarantee. On the flip side, paid social is where you're actually paying to really put a guarantee that you're reaching the type of person that you want to speak to and presenting them with the desired action. So think about it. If you have a text ad, an image ad, a video ad, carousel ads, there's so many different ad types. And later in the session, we're actually going to walk you through just what each of them are, because I'm sure it can be very complicated. And at times it's even complicated just to understand why you would use one over the other. But just think about the difference between organic and paid is really just what it sounds like. One is free, and it relies on you doing a lot of the work to be able to make sure that you can be viewed a little bit more favorably within the algorithm. But everything from a paid standpoint, on the other hand, is you essentially paying to be able to make sure that your ad and your business can be positioned in the way that you want them to at the time to the right audience. So hopefully that makes sense. But if anyone has any questions, definitely let us know in the chat. Okay, so this is just a quick high-level summary of what the real value is as it relates to paid advertising. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, it allows you to focus specifically on a target audience. And so if you remember in the last session, we talked a lot about building out your strategy on social. Everything as a business owner, especially as it relates to social media, should have some kind of a strategy attached to it or some kind of goal. And so our goal obviously is to be able to make sure that we're speaking to the right customer or the right potential person to hopefully convert them to actually being a full-time customer. And so what paid allows you to do is to really have a direct conversation with that type of person, where it is an experience that you'll be able to tailor to how you want to talk to that potential person. Think about it, if that person were to walk into your business, if you have a brick and mortar business, you know what differentiates that person from someone else, and you want to be able to make sure that you can sell them or engage with them in a manner that's consistent with what you think that person needs. And so paid advertising allows you to be able to target that specific person by putting some dollars against that target audience. This also is a great opportunity for you to do some A/B testing. So I know you've heard us say a lot about testing, and you will continue to say that because that is our mantra: test everything. But what paid social allows us to do is to put a few dollars against a specific message, against a specific post, against an image, or a certain audience, to be able to understand in kind of a vacuum more about that audience. So for example, if you are a fitness business, I'll go back to the fitness example. You want to be able to understand, do you have a higher success or a higher likelihood of being able to get someone who is always posting content about being in the gym, or someone who is of a certain age demographic, or someone regionally? What paid advertising allows you to do is really to put those people into individual buckets, put a few dollars against them, and to be able to test them against each other. And so you can do that with audiences again, and you can even do that with messages. So even if you already have a specific audience that you know you want to reach, you can test out using different messages against them to determine what's the best one that makes the most sense for you to use moving forward. And so similar to that, there's a lot of opportunities by just spending a few dollars. Again, you don't have to always think of advertising dollars as spending hundreds and thousands of dollars to be able to get value. What Facebook and a lot of these other platforms have made it really helpful and really easy for you to do via their self-serve platform is for you to be able to essentially scale up based off the amount that you're spending. And we'll have some screenshots a little bit later in the deck to be able to show you what this looks like. But just think about being able to potentially test anything that really is of importance to you in your business with a few dollars over a short amount of time to really be able to understand a little bit more about what's going to work for you. Additionally, it's a great opportunity for you to maximize your potential reach. So again, everything that you're doing organically, to a degree, has some semblance of a cap in terms of your potential reach. Whether it is you only have, say, 1,000 followers, anything that you post organically on your page is likely going to really be confined to those 1,000 followers, unless, of course, you go back to the hashtags, which we spoke about a few sessions ago, where that is another reach magnification tool. But what paid social does, it allows you to really break beyond that hashtag to really be able to reach people outside of a certain region, people who may not even be looking for those hashtags. Because if you remember, a lot of what made hashtags successful is that people have to be looking for them. And so what paid social does for you is it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it and allows you to really put that message or that content or that post in front of a much broader audience. But of course, the trade-off being that you do have to spend a little bit of dollars to be able to make that happen. And then finally, kind of summarizing all of that, essentially what really makes it really effective is that it helps you to break through the clutter. So we've all been on our feeds, we've all seen so many different posts, and sometimes you'll notice that there's some ads that are woven into the content. It's really hard for you to really differentiate yourself. And because the platforms really want to make sure that the user experience, again, isn't feeling like it's a marketplace for ads, it can also be really hard for you as a brand to break through that clutter. And so paid provides you a strong opportunity to really be able to do so.
When can we explain the differences between boosting a post from the front of a page and going through the various steps of ad manager, which is kind of what you were just speaking to?
Yep.
In your experience, which method is more effective than the other? So yeah, I think it depends on your goal and what you're looking to do, but this I think is a great question to address right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a question that I'm glad it was brought up early. So I'm glad that someone is already thinking that way, because we actually have a slide that's dedicated exactly to that. But I'll give you like the quick lowdown on it. Boosting a post and doing a paid ad are very similar, because at the end of the day, you're paying to be able to, amplify the reach of that post. But there are some nuances in terms of what you're actually going to get out of it on the back end, which when we get to that slide, I'll be able to explain more. But I would say think of them as being very similar, almost like cousins, where both of them, because they have some kind of paid component, they can be of value to you depending on what your goal is as a business. But I would say when we get to that slide, I'll spend some more time on that, because there are some nuances that, based off of what you're actually looking to accomplish by doing so, one could be better for you versus the other. And we'll also talk about Facebook's ad manager as well, which is really kind of the portal that allows you to be able to go really in depth into that actual ad setup process. But thank you for that question, and I'll make sure I address it later. So moving forward really quickly. So for those of you who may not be as familiar with what ads look like on social, this is just an example of what an Instagram ad looks like. So as I mentioned, this, outside of that shop now that you see there at the bottom, outside of that sponsored at the top, it essentially looks very similar to any other piece of content that you may find on Instagram. And so what the platforms will try to do is to make them feel as organic as possible, because again, it's all about user experience. So the way you'll be able to identify what a piece of content is an ad is looking for that sponsored messaging, looking for that shop now messaging, looking for some kind of call to action, because that call to action lets you know what that brand wants you to do. So this trade coffee company, their post, they initially set up to look like a general post, but they want you to shop now. They want you to go directly to some kind of experience where they want you to actually go directly to purchase. And so that really is kind of the big differentiating factor between just a general post that's kind of making you aware of something or convincing you to do something. An ad, in order to be the most effective, is going to have some kind of call to action, because at the end of the day, if someone is paying to be able to make sure that this piece of content is in front of you, you're ultimately betting that that person is going to want you to take an action, which is why they're spending that dollar. So this is just a quick example of what an Instagram ad looks like. But again, later in the presentation, we're going to show you some other examples of what it looks like on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on each of the platforms that we've kind of talked about, because it is going to be a little bit different of a user experience, but generally each of them is going to kind of feature the same thought process where it has sponsored and some kind of call to action. So again, I would say the most important difference, and really the key difference maker as it relates to paid versus organic, is that you can really get very, very, very granular in terms of your targeting. As I mentioned before, with hashtags, you can't necessarily identify a certain person that you want to be able to reach with that hashtag, because you're relying on that person actually looking for that hashtag. But on the flip side, with paid, as you can see this screenshot of what Facebook Ad Manager, so it's actually coming up a lot sooner. This is really just like the first step in terms of being able to kind of drill down. So what I'll do really quickly is kind of just walk you through what you're seeing on this screen. So this is, again, a screenshot from Facebook's Ad Manager. The very first thing that they ask you about is the audience, because that's the first thing that matters. You want to be able to establish who you're talking to before you can ever talk about how much you want to spend against them and things like that. And so as you'll see, you can geo-target, so locations. It's going to broadly default you to the United States or wherever you are geographically, but then it's up to you to be able to say that you want to get a little bit more drill down than just being solely at the larger national level. There's some value to national targeting, and I would definitely say unless your business is something that is very restrictive to a certain region, especially in a time when e-commerce really is the king, you really want to be able to make sure that you can identify the right timing and the right locations for when a certain message makes sense. Also, you'll see there's age qualifiers. So you can be able to drill down as young as 13. For most of your businesses, I would imagine you want to skew older because you generally want to be able to reach someone who can financially be able to afford your product or your service. But there are some instances where, if you have a children's product or if you have a product that's for teens, there's an instance where you may want to go that young. But I would also encourage you that should you go this route, make sure that you refine your target audience to not be too expansive, because as you see on the right, Facebook is going to do a good job of at least telling you how broad or how narrow your audience is. And really the sweet spot of where we want to be is right in the middle, right at that green portion, because if you're reaching too broad of an audience, and you may have heard me say this before, you're actually talking to nobody, because at the end of the day, the messaging is too broad that there's not really a specific person that's going to be able to see themselves in it. And also what you can see at the bottom, that potential reach number. So that number right there, based off of literally just putting in people 13 plus in America, there's 184 million people who you can reach on the platform just by doing that. And so as you start to add in different qualifiers, if you add in a gender qualifier, a language qualifier, if it's applicable, any type of education, any type of additional qualifiers of who your target audience is, that number is going to get smaller. But what you want to make sure that you do is that you're not refining your audience that is too small, because then you run into two issues. You either will be hitting the same person or the same group of people with too many messages, and then it can create a negative view of your business. But also, if your audience is too narrow, you're actually limiting the amount of opportunity that you have to be able to reach them, because then you're leaving a lot of it up to chance, because you're banking on the possibility of that person being able to be online at the time that your ad is running to be able to see your messaging. So again, we'll get a little bit further into this, but this is really step one in really being able to kind of take it a step further once you actually decide that you want to do paid ad. And so I know I kind of touched on them briefly on the last slide, but just at a high level, there's generally about 4 to 5 main targeting types. And so, for example, location is probably the first place that you want to start. And as I mentioned, there's some opportunities when you may want to go for a national audience. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you are a beauty brand in Harlem and you wanted people to be able to either come into your store or you want them to be able to shop your product locally. So it would be most advantageous for you to be able to set your geolocation as Harlem. And so thinking of how small, even though Harlem is pretty big, how small of an audience that is, you're now refining your search to just say, I only want to start with talking to people in Harlem. And then as you go, you're basically kind of chipping away a little bit more at your audience, because then if you want to say reach women who are 18 to 32, because based off of any type of research that you've done on your product, or who your general customer is, you refine it to be women 18 to 32. So now you're getting a little bit smaller, and a little bit closer to that audience group. But then interest targeting is also something that is very valuable to you as business owners, because interest targeting leans into the fact that your target consumer has already indicated on Facebook or on Instagram, based off of the information that you input when you're actually setting up your profile, or the brands that you follow, or the content that you like, that you're interested in this. And so interest targeting actually can be your friend in this instance, because now not only are you reaching women 18 to 32 who are in Harlem, you're essentially eliminating a lot of those women who may not necessarily have an interest in hair and beauty, and really allowing you to be hyper focused on that audience who is more likely to be the person that's going to buy your product. And then additionally, finally, behavioral targeting. Behavioral targeting is also very important as well, because behaviors actually kind of predict the certain action that you may want them to take. So for example, using that same instance of a beauty brand in Harlem, if you also want to engage with someone who has recently engaged with a beauty brand on the platform, that could be within the last 30 days. And generally, Facebook tends to look at it within 30-day windows. This is a way that you'd be able to, just by indicating these 4 things, really be able to drill down to an audience that may be the most advantageous for you, and to start building and having a conversation with them to hopefully patron your business. So I know I talked a lot about using paid ads as a mechanism for you to be able to, just generally push out messaging to someone who you may not have ever engaged with, or who may not have ever heard of your brand. But another really valuable tool of paid social is that you can actually remarket people who have engaged with your business in some kind of capacity. So for example, if you have an email list of people who have subscribed to your listserv, there's a lot of opportunity for you to remessage them on social. If you have some kind of a list, think about it as any information as it relates to people who have integrated, or excuse me, have used your business or patroned your business, or taken some kind of action relating to your business, such as visiting your webpage. Any type of action that they've done beforehand is valuable information and valuable tools that you can be able to use to be able to help use them for a targeting segment. And so what you're seeing here is how to actually create a custom audience. And so you'll see a few different options of what you can do here. One thing I will say is that custom file, that customer file is going to be something that you need to kind of upload into Facebook. So for example, if you use MailChimp or any of the email marketing platforms, if you have that list of people that you already are emailing to regularly, or any type of customer information, if you upload that into Facebook, you can now add that group into your targeting, or exclusively reach that group. Additionally, if you add the Facebook pixel, which we can have a separate conversation on that, the website traffic is going to be a great opportunity for you to be able to re-message to people who have visited your page, who have maybe even gone as far as to your cart, but maybe haven't actually bought the product. And so if you have an app, that's where app activity comes in. But then also engagement is very valuable, because again, if you have a list of people who have engaged with your content on Facebook or Instagram, this is another great custom audience that you can start having more conversations with just by adding them into your targeting pool. Does anyone have any questions on this, or am I good to move forward? I know I threw a lot at you the last slide.
Matt, we did have another great question.
Okay.
And it touches on some of the content we'll cover later. But in short, Twitter has the ability through their paid advertising platform to almost mirror competitors' profile. So when you're trying to target a specific audience, does Instagram/Facebook offer a similar feature?
Yeah, they do. And that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up, because we're actually going to cover that a little bit later. But what you're essentially talking about is lookalike modeling. That's what Facebook and Instagram are going to call it. So it's essentially, if you have, say, a group of 100 people who have visited your site, those people, even though they may differ in terms of demographic information or even location, there's something that is uniting them or driving them to your site, that then you can use that group as almost like a modeling to be able to say, okay, find me on social media, find me on Facebook, on Instagram, people that their web behavior, their interests, their demographics, find me people that are like them, because the assumption is you have a higher likelihood of getting other people to your site or to take that action based off the fact that you've been able to identify a group of people who already have. So what Facebook and Instagram are going to do in that instance is be able to really scrub all of their audiences to be able to identify as closely as possible any type of behaviors or any type of information that is relevant to a specific user that is very similar, as closely similar to the people that are within your initial audience as possible. And to your point, the person who asked the question, on Twitter, they also have that ability as well, which they call mirroring. So I hope that answered the question, but again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few slides. So with everything that I just said taken into account, I know your heads are probably spinning, so sorry, but want to make sure that we really understand kind of the whys. I also do want to make sure that you understand that it's not an either or thing. So just because you decide that you want to do paid social doesn't mean that you ignore your organic posting, and vice versa. You know, if you do have a strong organic posting strategy, which hopefully now, going back to the last sessions, you should have a stronger one. I want to be able to make sure that you understand this is something that should be complementary to each other and really used in tandem to be able to have the most success. So think about everything that you're doing organically should probably rely 75% on your effort and the work that you're putting in. But that extra 25% is really that boost where you can use paid social as kind of that additive thing to really be able to help you drive incremental more success. So really view everything that we're saying here as really that middle ground, that gem of being able to figure out when is the right moment to lean more on your organic and when are the moments in time that you want to lead a little bit more on your paid social. So moving forward, with that said, a really effective organic strategy actually is the foundational basis for having a strong, successful ad campaign. So for example, anyone who's already following your business is more than likely going to already know who you are. They're familiar with how you speak. They're familiar with your value proposition. They understand who you are as a brand and why you matter. But also, that person, just because they follow your brand, doesn't necessarily want to be sold every time you post. That actually creates a negative user experience with your brand where they always feel that they're being sold to, and it's really more of a transactional relationship, and it's not something that's reciprocal. And so this is where paid ads come in, because as opposed to being able to push on your current followers a lot of messaging to try to get them to take an action, you more than likely are actually trying to reach someone who is not already a follower or is not already someone who cares about your brand to try to bring them into the fold. So this example that you see here is just an example from Headspace. For those of you who are familiar with Headspace or those who aren't, Headspace is essentially a meditation app. And so what they do is they post a lot of mindful reminders on their organic page just to be able to get people into the mindset of meditation and other mindfulness related things. And you see they have their hashtag mindful moments. You know, that's a hashtag that's very unique to them. But on the flip side, if they're trying to get other people to be able to download their app or to like their page or to subscribe to any type of messaging, what they would do to complement that organic post is, I would imagine in this instance, they reached an audience of people who they have absolute certainty are not their customers. And so within Facebook's ad platform, you can actually select exclude current customers as a way to make sure that you're not reaching a lot of the same people over and over and over. And so again, this is just an example to show how one brand is able to have two different conversations, but to still be able to work in tandem together to reach their goals. So now with everything that I just said, I'm sure the question that's in your mind is, okay, now I understand, Matt, but when should I actually consider running an ad? And so my answer to you is actually gonna be a question back, because it's gonna depend on your desired goal. If you remember in our previous conversation, there's a lot of different goals as it relates to your business that you may have in that specific time. And so with your posting strategy, you may in that moment really be wanting to reach people outside of your geographic location. Like I mentioned before, if you're, for example, a local Harlem business, you may want to reach somebody that's in Missouri. You may want to reach people in South Florida because you think the messaging that you have is very relevant and very pertinent to that person, that they should not only want to follow your brand, but you also want to be able to get them to patron your business. But this is also very helpful when you have a limited time offer. So say, for example, you're running a special. We used the Harlem Creamery example a few sessions ago, where let's just say, you know, it's getting warm outside. And if I'm Harlem Creamery, excuse me, Sugar Hill Creamery, you want to be able to make sure that people could take advantage of, say, a 25% off on Fridays, or if there's another limited time offer. That's a great opportunity for you to use an ad to really make sure that people are only seeing that ad for a certain amount of time, because you want to be able to make sure that they can take advantage while supplies last or while the promotion is running. But then also a third opportunity for you to potentially use ads is if you have a major announcement for your business, or you have a specific piece of content that you want to promote. Say, for example, you were recently featured in some kind of a publication, or there's some kind of interesting video that you recently either produced yourself or something that was produced on behalf of your business. And you want to be able to make sure that you can get as wide of a reach as possible for that content. This is a great opportunity moment for you to be able to potentially use ads to really be able to get the word out and have as many people be aware of what's going on with your business at that time. Back to that question that was earlier, and I told you we were going to come back to it. So now you've decided that you do want to put some paid support behind your brand. You want to decide when is the right moment to boost it and when's the right moment to run an ad. So as I mentioned, they're almost cousins in the sense that they both rely on you actually spending some dollars. But what I want you to think of when you think of boosting is you already have a post that you've already posted to your page. So in terms of where it already lives on your page. This is something that your followers have already seen. This is something that you probably already have hashtags against, and you want to be able to amplify it even more. This is when you would decide that you want to boost that post, because the goal of boosting it is going to be able to get you more likes. It's going to be able to get you more comments, more shares on that specific post. And so that's the one thing to keep in mind, because anything that you're boosting is going to be relevant to your specific piece of content, but not necessarily have that kind of additional value necessarily for your business, where you may be trying to get someone to actually buy something on the platform or on your site. You may be trying to get someone to view more videos. If you boost that post, it's not necessarily going to have that same relationship. And so if you're spending dollars against boosting, I would always encourage you to actually aim for the lower end. So start with maybe $10, $20 to boost. Facebook and Instagram, and I would imagine Twitter as well, they make it very easy for you to just amplify that post in real time. And so that user experience of being able to just quickly add some dollars against a post to be able to just get more word out on that post in real time, they make that very easy. But then on the flip side, I would say you may want to go towards doing a formal ad if you're not necessarily posting a specific piece of content to your page, which again is going to rely on someone actually knowing your business already exists. You may want to reach someone new to have them, download an app if you have an app, or you may want them to go to your website because you have a promo going on. This is an instance where you may actually be more interested in just running an ad as opposed to boosting that post, because this is going to allow you to really reach the widest possible audience at that time, as opposed to relying on the initial post to do kind of the initial heavy lifting. So just hopefully this all makes sense. I would say think of them as an either or in this instance, where it's either you're going to boost a post or you're going to run an ad. You likely aren't going to do both just because they're going to have different end goals. But just keep in mind of before you ever decide to post or to run an ad, take a second and think, what am I ultimately trying to accomplish by putting these dollars there? Because as we mentioned, as business owners, every dollar that we have matters to us. And so even if you're spending $5 to boost or run an ad, you want to make sure that that $5 is going to get you that return on that investment that is going to make you happy. And so what I would hate for it to happen is you spend $10, $20 to boost a post, hoping that it's going to lead to you getting more signups for something or more actual sales. And in reality, all that ends up happening is that you only get more likes on that page and you don't get that end result. And so with that in mind, think of what you want to accomplish by putting those dollars there. And then from there, decide if you want to be more on the right side of that image or if you want to be on the left side of that image. Okay, and another important thing to also make sure to keep in mind is your target audience. So again, we said this over and over in each of the sessions. Everything that you're doing is most important to your target audience. So you have to think about why your target audience should even care to begin with. What you're seeing here is actually a chart from Facebook themselves, where this is just showing the types of ads that consumers generally say that they would engage with the most. So first and foremost, no surprise here, people want to be entertained. So within your ad, if you're using a video, and I would always encourage you to use some kind of video content in your ad, it's not the end all be all, but video is always going to do a little bit better of a job of explaining and being able to be a little bit more engaging than something that's just a static image. But if you only have static images, that's fine. But just keep in mind that you want to be able to make sure that first and foremost, people want to be entertained. And so if there's a way that you can couple entertaining them or providing some kind of a discount, teaching them something, something that's referring to their interests, these are all things that are already in the mindset of that end consumer. And so if you could check one or multiple of these boxes as you're putting together your ad, then you have a higher likelihood of actually being successful. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, if you do decide to spend on ads, I would highly encourage you to start with small amounts. Do not try to go even over $25 to start, because $25 spread over 3 days is a good amount of time to be able to gauge what you can expect. And within the platform, as you can see here, this is actually a screenshot from Facebook as well. If you put in the amount of days that you want to run the promotion for, you run the dates that you want to run it for, if it's a very specific time window, and you put your daily budget, it's going to tell you that at $1 a day across 10 days, you are going to reach 190 to 840 people for this specific target audience. But let's just say you want to spend $10 a day over 2 days, or $10 a day over 7 days for $70. Again, you're going to be limited if you decide to go with that daily budget, because that is going to refine it solely to making sure that they spend to get you every day this amount of people that they're quoting you. But I would actually encourage you to run your ad. Click on this little thing at the top where it says run this ad concurrently. This allows you to actually be able to, over the lifetime of the time window that you say you're going to run it. So for example, if you started an ad today and you say, I want to run it all the way through Friday, as opposed to saying that we're going to spend, in this instance, $1 a day, you're saying, I want to spend $10 total over those 4 days. And what Facebook is going to do is spend the time being able to identify when can I heavy up, knowing that this is when that target audience is more likely to engage, and really be able to tell you over the lifetime of that campaign, the amount of people that you'll be able to reach. So again, think of the amount of money that you're spending and the amount of time that you want to run the ad for. Please definitely make sure that you set an end date on your ads, because Facebook can be, and all these other platforms can be very tricky in this regard, where they'll give you long end dates, because for them, they want you to be able to spend every day. And you may not have realized that that's what you're telling them. But that is something that we as business owners need to just make sure that we do the extra work to make sure that in that regard, we don't get taken advantage of. So I would highly encourage you, before you ever hit the promote button, before you ever hit send, you just review everything. And there's actually a last page where it allows you to review, but you just go through everything and just make sure that it is exactly what you want, and that you can understand that the expectations that you have before going in. So in this instance, if you were spending this $1 a day, you know that, okay, every day I'm going to reach at least 840 people. That's 840 people that just by spending that $1 are going to be more exposed to your business than if you weren't spending on it. So again, hopefully that's crystal clear, but I would just highly encourage you, if you are going to start, everyone's budget's a little bit different. Maybe you have the ability to be able to spend a little bit more. Just keep in mind that everything that you do on these platforms from a spend standpoint is going to be scalable, meaning that the more you spend, the more people you'll be able to reach, the more clicks you'll ultimately be able to get. And so it's going to have a residual effect based on the amount that you can spend. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend a ton of money to be able to have success. All right, and so to kind of wrap everything up, these are the most important things to make sure that you do before you ever spend $1. Make sure that you are listening to what your audience cares about. Make sure you're listening to what's going on around you, around your business, all of those outside factors, to make sure that this is the right thing for you and also the right timing, but also learn about what your audience likes, learn about what potentially they may be interested in, and make sure that you are planning. I can't stress this enough. Make sure you are planning out what you hope to get out of your campaign, and the metrics that you're going to be looking at to determine if it's a success. All this should happen before you ever spend $1, because the minute that you spend $1, it's very hard to take that back. And not only that, it's a likelihood that you may not necessarily even get the end result that you were hoping for once they've actually started spending. So hopefully that all makes sense. Moving forward, I'm going to pass it off to Donnie, who is going to walk you through specifically what the ad experience looks like on each platform.
Thank you, Matt. I did, and sorry, I just jumped back in here. I did want to bring up one great question from the audience before we transition fully. So, and it ties into a lot of what you were speaking to at the end, and it was raised by Natalia. So Natalia has a question specific to the organization she works for. They've tried to do ads in the past, and what she's curious about is the right length of time to run so that the algorithm and the effects and the ROI of your ad campaign reach the highest performance.
Yep, that's a great question. Thanks for that, Natalia. So what I would say is, unless you have absolutely, it's the only day that you can do it, I would always encourage you to at least run an ad for 3 days at minimum. Because if you say do an ad for just 1 day, what Facebook is going to do is just push out as much messaging as they can to as many people on that 1 day, just to be able to make sure that they can fulfill it. And there's not a lot of learning that's going on. What the algorithm on Facebook's end is doing is just making sure that they can deliver on what they said they're going to provide. And so for you, that may not necessarily give you the most qualified audience, but it is going to get you the audience that you are asking for. And so to your point about being able to kind of learn as it goes, usually if you have at least a 3-day window to be able to run ads, over that first day, what Facebook or any of these other platforms are going to do is there's going to be a testing period, or a learning period, as they'll call it on the platform, where they're really learning about this target audience that you've identified. They're learning what are the things that algorithmically are going to have the highest likelihood of generating you success. And so with that, on day 2 and day 3 is when they really start to more aggressively spend that budget that you've allocated towards making sure that they can reach those people that on day 1 they were able to earn. That's not to say that you should only do 3-day campaigns. Based on the amount of money that you have to spend, I would think about it in your planning. Let's say you have $100. You want to make sure that you can think about what you're hoping to be able to spend on a daily basis to be able to get there, but ultimately knowing that that $100 is what's going to be spent over the lifetime of it. And so making sure that if you decide 3 days, 7 days, a week, 2 weeks, that you understand the amount that's going to be spent every day, or the amount that's going to be spent over the lifetime, because the longer that you have a campaign running, the more the algorithm actually learns to be able to be a little bit smarter.
Can I ask you a follow-up question too, real quick?
Yeah.
In terms of building the algorithm and everything, if I'm targeting parents in the Harlem area specifically for our charter school, is there a way that I can do that through the metrics? And they actually, or, because I know you said to plan your metrics and, plan out your strategy before you spend any dollars. So I'm just curious, like, I know it says you can pick a certain age group and a certain, like a area and stuff like that. So is that pretty much what I'm doing to try to target? Like, let's say I want to hit at least 1,000 parents in the Harlem area, or 2,000 parents for this specific ad. Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to do with these ads,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what I would say is, first, I would start by just plugging that information into the ad manager, because let's say if there are 1,000 parents in the Harlem community, that feels like a lot. And you have to keep in mind that while there may be 1,000 actual parents in that district that you're looking for, not all of them are going to be registered on Facebook. And so you're already going to be limiting your audience potentially. So you may not actually be able to reach as many as you're looking for. But once you plug that information in, if you remember that first slide that I had where it was showing you how broad or how specific your targeting is, it'll be able to give you a gauge of generally how many of those people you can reach. But one thing to keep in mind specifically as it relates to that is on Facebook, a lot of what they're doing to be able to do this targeting is based on inputs that people put into their profiles. So unless someone is specifically putting that they're a parent, there's a lot of just guesswork that Facebook is doing to identify those parents. And so you may want to think of some other targeting segments that may be able to get you closer to identifying someone as a parent outside of just the geographic region, which I would highly encourage you to just start with that region for sure. But from an interest standpoint, from a behavior standpoint, there's a lot of drop downs when you go into the platform of just things that either intuitively make sense, where you're like, okay, I want somebody who in the last 30 days has purchased Pampers, just making it up. More than likely that person is going to be someone who is a parent because they have bought Pampers. But there's a number of other behaviors that they've shown on the platform that helps you identify that person as your specific audience. Does that make sense? Hopefully I answered your question. But yes, definitely start with Harlem if you're specifically looking for Harlem.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Once you set your audience, right? So you've done the due diligence to identify who you're trying to target. How is the system itself operating to refine the performance of your ad over the course of the campaign? And I think, to my understanding, there is some algorithmic element to it that helps refine it. So there's features within the ad manager platform that you can select so that as you're seeing engagement come in, it kind of begins to refine your focus area a little bit. So it's almost optimizing on its own to a degree, right?
Got it. Yes. And also, I just took a quick peek at the question. So I actually think specifically within the platform, so where it says the attribution setting, the way it learns to serve my target audience. So no, so actually attribution, in this instance, think of the word attribution as just credit. So think of it in the sense of like, how is Facebook going to deem the credit for how that conversion or that action or that actual thing came through? And so what they'll tell you is two things. There's attribution window. So it's generally going to be within a 7-day window. It could be a 2-week window. You can kind of set that. But let's just say, for example, your attribution window is 7 days. You basically want to be able to say, during those 7 days, knowing that I ran Facebook ads, I want to be able to attribute any type of conversion that comes through to that ad. I want to give the credit to that ad because I know that that was what was happening. But you can set a more rigid attribution window or a broader attribution window. I would encourage you to generally set a little bit broader attribution windows because sometimes if you do too rigid of a window, people don't necessarily always have take the immediate action that you want them to take. And so let's just say someone sees your ad on Facebook, clicks on it, gets to your site, and then they don't convert within that time period. But then that person ends up, say 2 days later, which may fall outside of your attribution window, that person ends up buying. They're not going to get credit within the attribution window because it falls outside of that window. So essentially just think of that attribution, the word itself, as just how is Facebook going to credit it? And then you're also setting the time frame of when is Facebook going to be able to say that this direct action came from them seeing this ad during this specific time frame.
Once you set your audience, right? So you've done the due diligence to identify who you're trying to target. How is the system itself operating to refine the performance of your ad over the course of the campaign? And I think, to my understanding, there is some algorithmic element to it that helps refine it. So there's features within the ad manager platform that you can select so that as you're seeing engagement come in, it kind of begins to refine your focus area a little bit. So it's almost optimizing on its own to a degree, right?
Got it. Yes. And also, I just took a quick peek at the question. So I actually think specifically within the platform, so where it says the attribution setting, the way it learns to serve my target audience. So no, so actually attribution, in this instance, think of the word attribution as just credit. So think of it in the sense of like, how is Facebook going to deem the credit for how that conversion or that action or that actual thing came through? And so what they'll tell you is two things. There's attribution window. So it's generally going to be within a 7-day window. It could be a 2-week window. You can kind of set that. But let's just say, for example, your attribution window is 7 days. You basically want to be able to say, during those 7 days, knowing that I ran Facebook ads, I want to be able to attribute any type of conversion that comes through to that ad. I want to give the credit to that ad because I know that that was what was happening. But you can set a more rigid attribution window or a broader attribution window. I would encourage you to generally set a little bit broader attribution windows because sometimes if you do too rigid of a window, people don't necessarily always have the take the immediate action that you want them to take. And so let's just say someone sees your ad on Facebook, clicks on it, gets to your site, and then they don't convert within that time period. But then that person ends up, say 2 days later, which may fall outside of your attribution window, that person ends up buying. They're not going to get credit within the attribution window because it falls outside of that window. So essentially just think of that attribution, the word itself, as just how is Facebook going to credit it? And then you're also setting the time frame of when is Facebook going to be able to say that this direct action came from them seeing this ad during this specific time frame.
Time. We do have a question about generally the algorithm and how it pertains to the audience. Like, what is the definition of an algorithm and how does it pertain to the audience? And then I'll get in presentation mode now. So
yeah, no problem. So I think the question came from Terry. Can you give a definition of algorithm as it pertains to us? So the algorithm, if you remember that the algorithm is really just all that code, it's all the math behind how these platforms work. And so for us as business owners, the algorithm is really what's determining what piece of content gets shown to you versus what gets shown to me versus what gets shown to Nakoa. Because at the end of the day, there's a bunch of data points that have gone into it on the back end, things that we don't even need to see. But it's really the math behind understanding how something gets shown, who it gets shown to, how often it gets shown to. And so for us, our goal is to be able to make sure that the algorithm is being able to factor us as high as possible in the experience for a specific user as it relates to us. So if you really want to reach moms in Harlem, you want to be able to make sure that everything that you're doing for your business is going to influence you rising a little bit higher in that mom in Harlem's feed experience, because the algorithm is determining that one, this person is more likely to engage with your business, but also on the flip side, you're a business that is relevant to them as well. Because what they really try to do is make sure that the experience works on both ends, that you are reaching the people that you care for, but also that the brands that actually matter to that person actually are being showed to them. Hopefully that answers your question. But if it doesn't, just let me know in the chat as well, and I can address it as well.
All right, so just a quick recap and transition here. So Matthew's done a great job in kind of walking us through the background, the why, a lot of the essence as to the approach to ads, and then actually fundamentally how do you actually create them. And similar to what we've done in prior sessions, we want to make sure we focus as well on specific examples so that as we turn over this presentation to you all and you guys use it in your day-to-day, we make sure we give you some examples so that you can quickly apply them as soon as today or tomorrow. So what the latter part of this presentation will outline is breaking it down by platform and showing you specific examples and screenshots on things you can apply, and then breaking them down by all the different varying ad types per platform. So with that said, we'll start with Facebook, and then we'll get to all the other platforms we traditionally cover. So with Facebook, what's interesting here is that with the detailed targeting options that they do have, and the massive pool of users, as you can imagine, Facebook is growing. There's very compelling metrics on how much they grow each day, and the audience is expanding not only in the the millennial age group, but even in the older age groups and younger. So they're still seeing steady growth. So it's really a great platform for advertising. And with their ad manager platform that we've spoken to in Lens so far today, really does give you a very systematic way to build very compelling and effective campaigns. So we wanted to show you some examples. And I'll get right into it. But before we start, I really wanted to level set on some different channels. So within each of these ad platforms and within each of your ad campaigns, regardless of what tool you might use, there's really three kind of buckets of objectives: awareness, consideration, and conversion. But within each of these buckets, per platform, the actual element itself might vary. But specific to Facebook, The awareness element of it is really built around building your brand awareness and creating reach. So from an awareness perspective, that's really the objective that Facebook is able to solve. When it comes to consideration, it sends traffic to your website. It can improve your engagement. If you're looking to encourage your audience to install an app or to view a video or to create leads, this is another platform that this is tailored to. So if you're looking to create ads that do these things, Facebook is the right place for you. It also has the opportunity to engage and communicate with your customer. A very growing trend right now is not only speaking to your audience through a post or an ad, but actually communicating directly through them through text or message. And with the Facebook Messenger app that's built into the platform, it creates another, channel for you to communicate to your audience. So if you're looking to do more than just share a photo and have it land in your audience's feed, but to really connect and speak to them, you can have ads that land directly into their Messenger feed. So it's just another option that you can think about when you think about your brand, the way your audience engages with your brand and what you feel might be an effective way. So when we go back to testing, something you can consider. And then lastly, the last channel here, bucket, is conversion. So how that works within Facebook is it can increase your purchases and or leads via the site, the app. It can make different data, it can drive foot traffic. All of these different elements is, again, a great tool that Facebook is able to accomplish. So if you're looking to increase your purchases, increase traction, increase conversion, increase foot traffic, Facebook Manager is able to accomplish all of these things. So now with that said, let's get into some examples. And I am keeping track of the time, so I will move swiftly, but again, if you have questions, please let us know in the chat. So first and foremost, photo ads. One of the more popular versions to leverage is a great tactic. And some key things to understand here is that photos data specifically, and studies have been able to prove this, that unique and compelling photos are still the most effective way to drive unique and solid engagement. Things to keep in mind is that there is a 90-character text limit. So making sure that you kind of stick within that. You want to make sure that you're curating compelling but concise and thoughtful captions, and we spoke about this in prior sessions. So really trying to stick within the 90 characters. And then within the headline, you have 25. So that's a great amount. There's a lot you can do with that. You can get creative with using emojis or whatever you'd like to do. So those are just general guardrails for when you're thinking about creating a photo ad within Facebook. And then lastly, there's going to be that call to action button. So I know we had a few people in the audience that asked questions, what if I'm not trying to sell a product yet, but I'm more so trying to communicate and reach more people? Your call to action can be curated to that exact purpose. So if your goal is to educate, you can say learn more. But if your goal is to convert to a customer or to sell a product, this learn more can be shop now. So there's different options that you can kind of curate and tailor based on the type of ad that you're trying to do. So this is just a quick summary, an example of a photo ad within Facebook. Videos are another great way. I think they're very engaging. If you have a product or a brand that is live, that has movement, it's another great tool to use. But video is something that can be a friend to all. So we really do encourage you to try to experiment as best as you can. We've included here a very popular and effective example of how video was used. For specifically advanced theater. I know we do have some art organizations as part of this group, so we hope this is resonate. And with videos, some interesting things to consider here are that they're looping clips. So this clip will continue to loop. So if it's 15 seconds, if it's 10 seconds, when it's living on a feed, a user can view it and then it will automatically loop again. So it has this autoplay feature, which is great because sometimes you might not capture all the messaging in one view. So it autoplays, so it gives the user an opportunity to watch it again and again without them having to actually click. So just a better way for conversion in general. Also that original, if you have original content, you can promote up to 241 minutes, which is an amazing statistic. So if you have compelling, really thoughtful and more long form content that you're looking to promote, you can embed that within an ad and really maximize the opportunity to get some length. So I know tapping back into our audience, we have a few folks here who do documentary series and things of that nature. If you're looking to promote specifically some of the content, using a video ad within Facebook is a great way to capture a lot of the content you're looking to do. Now, we also have talked about the right time, the right length. So you want to consider all those things when you're trying to speak to your audience. But if you are trying to dabble into that longer form, you can use video ads within Facebook to do that. And then the video ads you can also, which is a pretty interesting feature, and I wish I could find, I included a screenshot here, but you can play a video within a video, if that makes sense. So you can have a video ad itself that also has a video within it. So just more compelling, unique, and interesting ways for users to engage. And it's also an ad, when you get the more creative you can get over time, the more likely that you'll draw and that engagement you're looking for. So these are just some kind of cool features that you can look into as you're planning out your video ads. So now getting into stories. I know we had questions about stories and reels, so we're going to tap right into that now. So story ads. Stories are a very popular and growing form of communication within both Instagram and Facebook. They're a great way to show video content in a very user-friendly and scrollable manner. Now, if you imagine scrolling through your stories on your phone or your feed as you're kind of going throughout the course of your day, you might be looking at content specifically from the people and the brands that you follow. The ad or the sponsored ad will, as you see in some of the images on the left here, will appear in the middle of that scroll or swipe. So it gives you, again, a very unique and different way of providing content, usually in photo or video form, that allows you to engage or to provide an advertisement to your audience, and then also has the ability, like others, to have call to action. So you see here within a story itself, you might see the learn more at the bottom, and you can swipe up or click, and it gives you more content, more options to include caption, but then also it could lead you to a destination page, whether it be your website or another account. So just some interesting other tactics to leverage. Some things to note here is that it's a full screen format. So think about the imagery you select, the video content you use, because it is a full screen. So the more compelling and visual and colorful the images, the better it is for this form. And you can kind of see that from the examples we've included here. Also, the photo will display for 6 seconds. So I want you, from a photo perspective, I want you to think about that in this kind of photos that you select. And for videos, it's 15 seconds. So again, as you're selecting the content, as you might have some long form that you're looking to edit down and chop up. This is something you want to keep in mind as you try to decide what to include in your story versus what you might want to include in just a traditional video ad. The stories do last for 24 hours. So again, that naturally lends itself to ads being more of a timely type of ad. So if you have a call to action where it's like limited time only, or check this out for a one-day sale, these are the type of ads that are likely to be leveraged in this type of form more often, because there's a timing sensitivity to it. So there's a kind of, a FOMO almost, you're afraid of missing out. So if you're looking to create that level of anticipation with your audience, or you have some type of flash sale, if you're selling product, using stories is a great medium to accomplish that in a very cool and compelling way. So that's story ads. Getting on to carousel. So I think hopefully we're all a little familiar with carousels. We've touched on it in different post types in the past. Just similar to an organic post, you have carousel within your paid as well. So you can create carousel-like ads within Facebook. And we've included here an example of CAP using one. So it's really cool in that it gives you the opportunity to include up to 10 images or videos. And each video or photo can have its own link. So if you see here, this photo of the gentleman wearing a rugby shirt has a link for Shop Now. Then the t-shirt has its own link. So within each photo, within this carousel, you can have a different call to action and with a different link. So it can draw you specifically to the checkout part of that product, or if you're looking to showcase variant elements of a brand, it can give you different destinations within the site or something else. So it's a very cool way if you have a variety or a collection of items. This is a very compelling and cool way to include multiple things within one ad that also has its own curated link to it. So you have different calls to action and you have different links to get you to different destinations. So again, great way to showcase different features of a product. If you're looking to also maybe even explain a step-to-step process So if you're trying to build anticipation for a product launch and you want folks to register on a landing page, using this type of carousel to explain a process is also a very cool and compelling way to use it, because it's kind of linear in that process. And then also, if you have multiple products or services, if you're a brand or a company that does more than just sell, but you might provide experiential elements and activations as well, showing the variety of your brand can be accomplished through carousel ads. So just another example of a great ad that you can use, and I hope these elements are helpful and something that you could hopefully apply today. And then slideshow ads. I think this one is really cool because for those who maybe don't want to necessarily dive all the way into the video space, you can create these type of slideshows where they're imagery that are kind of put together. So it's static imagery built in a slideshow type of presentation format. So you get that type of movement, action, and motion, but without having to actually produce a full-length video, capture content. So it's a great way of kind of going in the direction of video and providing some type of motion and engagement without having to actually produce that level of content. So a great way to start in the direction of video, but not necessarily go all the way there yet. So we do recommend it again as another kind of cool way to create different ads, test, see what people are receptive to and your audience are receptive to, and just another kind of example and offer that Facebook has. So again, a great option for those who maybe aren't ready yet for a video ad or haven't been able to capture content, but you have great imagery and you want to create something with some motion. Think of slideshows as a great way and a great tool. And again, similar components. You have a call to action. You have not only the caption and the title up top, but you have the content underneath. So again, great example, great tool to use. And they are selling products, are selling experiences, are selling different things. And having and using collection ads is a great way to spotlight a full-on collection. So what you're able to do as this photo on the right side hopefully displays is that you can highlight a product within the feed itself, but then also have like a cover photo or a cover video, and then you can include all types of detail. It's almost like your own mini collection pop-up shop within your Facebook ad. So it gives you everything from a homepage, a landing photo and video that can be something very compelling and draw you in. And then it can give you all of the elements of the product launch. And you can even include things like pricing and other details. So it's a very cool and creative way to really display a collection, an assortment of products, a group of products. And it almost gives you like a storefront feel, right? Because you're seeing the entry point, you're seeing the introduction, but then you're also getting all of the catalog as well. So another great tool that you can use if you have a group of products and you really want to provide an experience where you don't necessarily show or spotlight one thing, but you want to spotlight everything. So, if folks on the line are coming out with a collection or an assortment of products for the summertime and you're looking to promote it, and you're launching everything together, using a collection ad is a great way to do that. And you can get very creative within it too. So we do encourage you to check this out as well. It's just another option. And then we talked about in the beginning, but we'll include it here as well, as messenger ads. So what's gaining more and more popularity, if you've noticed, is text communication, text advertisements, in addition to what you might get through your feed in photos or videos. So communicating directly with your audience via Messenger, everyone's on their phones now, everyone's engaging and communicating. So using messengers is a great way, again, to communicate with your audience. So in this situation, in this platform or this channel, ads are placed right in the chats tab. So you're just like you might see on the left-hand side, you're going to get you might get a message directly from a brand that you might follow or that you might have fit the audience for. So if you're looking to target, I know folks on the line here, or we're looking to target moms who are looking at different school options. I'm one of those parents as well. They're looking at schools right now for next year, and I can receive a Facebook Messenger message right in my phone that might give me great information about a school and its curriculum. So if you feel like this is something that might resonate with your audience, feel free to try it out. You can always test it, start low, and then if you get the type of reception engagement you're looking for, you can kind of delve a little deeper and invest a little more. But another different element that you can use to really communicate with your audience. So again, just wanted to include this one here because we think it's something I think is growing in popularity and something that might be beneficial for the community that's here online right now. So again, you can be used to start automating conversations. So if you have promotions, if you have sales, if you have if you're open house or enrollment period, you can have automated messaging that can go directly to your audience right in their app, right in their messaging channel, and they can see it right there. So another great way for engagement. Okay, so with that, we've wrapped up Facebook, and we're going to kind of transition now into Instagram. Of course, we know that they're related because Facebook does own Instagram. So a lot of what you're going to see for Instagram is going to be very similar to what we saw on Facebook. So I'll cover those as well, but there are going to be some interesting elements that Instagram has that's unique. So I'll try to delve into that as well. But one thing to kind of lead into it is Instagram really allows you to target the ideal viewer with features like creating lookalike audiences. So I know we talked about how Twitter has that functionality. You can also do that within this Facebook, Instagram platform as well. And you can define your audience's behaviors and activities. And you can use, what's very cool and very interesting is the Facebook Ad Manager platform works for both Facebook and Instagram. So you can use it here as well. And then, just like we talked about collection ads in Facebook, we have collection ads in Instagram. And Instagram being a platform that's built on photography and imagery and video, you can really get very creative and compelling and create a really interesting experience within collection ads. So here it gives you the feature, as we touched on before, to have a cover image or video. And then plus you can include several products. So you're getting this really interesting user instance experience, right? So if I'm someone who recently moved and I'm looking for furniture, if I landed on an ad like this, I can almost get a sense of all the different rooms I could furnish, right? If I'm looking to furnish my living room, but also my family room and my, if I had a den, this type of ad would give me a flavor as to everything they're offering. So if it's better to show the variety in certain cases like this, if your brand or your product offering is built on a suite of products, this is a great way to do that because, just showing a couch might not resonate with someone. But if you showed a couch and a table and a coffee table, you have a better chance of attracting an audience. So if you are a brand, a company, or a business that has a variety of product that you're trying to promote as one collection or as just, as individual products itself, showing a collection gives an audience and a receiver of this ad a great feel for everything you have to offer. So the likelihood of engaging and clicking is higher. So we do encourage you, if you are a brand like this that has that type of variety, to really, experiment with it, test it out, and see if it works. It works for you. Okay, ads in Explorer. So, I think we actually spent some time looking at the Explorer page earlier. We even did some direct screenshots. So the Explorer page on Instagram is where you could kind of get a snapshot of all the activity. And that's where the algorithm really plays its role, right? Because the Explorer page is really a curation of the different interests that you've shown and displayed on the platform, on the app. And what you're able to do within ads is also show them within your Explorer page. So when you're going into an Explorer page, you're likely someone that's trying to gain exposure to different things, right? You look through your feed and you're kind of just trying to see what else is out there on the platform. So you're going then looking for, if you're going to the Explorer page, you're looking to kind of just see what's out there. You're in, as the title lends itself, you're looking to explore. And you can also, in a very native and discreet way, include ads within this space. So they're not going to necessarily show in your feed. So as this diagram on the left shows you, when you go into the Explorer page, you're going to have a grid of different videos and photos. But the ad will show up once you're scrolling through it, and once you've clicked on an actual image and you begin to scroll through that image and experience, the ad will appear there. So it's not so much in your face, it's more subtle in this experience and in this channel, but it does give you, again, a very effective way to attract and to target audiences and users that are using the Explorer page as a way to discover. So naturally, if you're looking to just see what's out there, you're in a curiosity mode, and you can create ads that are very subtle and native and appear in your scroll as you click on different photos. So it's a very, again, cool way in another creative way that Instagram has added to really experience different businesses. So I've found companies through this as well, and some have turned into I've turned into customers for some of these businesses. So myself personally, this has been a tactic that has been successful for me to discover new companies that might fit what I'm looking for. So another thing to think about. We talked about stories. So yeah, so Instagram as well, you can do story ads. So just like on Facebook, where your story ad will appear kind of in the middle of your scrolls between the brands or the people you might follow. Similarly, Instagram does that as well. So in this ad type, you can use photos or images, just like Facebook, and you have up to 120 seconds, which is a pretty good length of time. So it really gives you the length to create engagement. And it can, again, displays in full screen format. So think of that when you're trying to select or curate your imagery. You want to make sure that it fits that kind of full, it's tailored to that full screen format. And we recommend also being as interactive as you can. Instagram does a great job of including a lot of different GIFs, buttons, actions, and different emojis that you can use to liven up your ad. So if you experimented with stories before, we do encourage you to try it. It's actually really user friendly. You know, I'm someone that is not as savvy as Matthew, but I still am able to piece together some stuff in my story too. So it's really a user friendly tool, and it gives you the opportunity to get creative, show your creative side, show your brand, but also create more enticing ads. So it increases your chances of better performance. So we do really recommend, just like this example shows, where you have a button that can kind of engage and provide some kind of survey to the audience. These are different tactics you can use that will improve your chances of engagement and hopefully conversion. So that's story ads. Okay, so now we've wrapped up Facebook and Instagram, and now we're going to head into Twitter. And you know, as some of the community members talk about, Twitter does have a great way to target different audiences and tailor them specifically to a competitor. So there's really some compelling things to use. Twitter is a unique platform that's effective, but it is one where, you know, we touched on the past. It's a platform where it's something, if you have something to say, it's great to use. So we do kind of want to make sure that we're educating the audience on how to best use it, but it is a very effective tool as well if your audience is in this space. One interesting metric or statistic that I found is that nearly 2/3 of the Twitter's advertising addressable audience is male. So it's a very male-driven type of audience when it comes to ads. So you might want to think about that too as you're curating ads as well. If the audience you're targeting is male, you might want to think more about Twitter as an option. So let's get into it. So just like we talked about when we touched on Facebook and when we touched on Instagram, we have these three buckets, right? Awareness, consideration, and conversion. And I'm looking at the time here. Okay, so with awareness, for Twitter specifically, it's a great way to maximize your reach of your ad. So it's a maximization from an awareness perspective, great for maximization of your reach, right? So keep that in mind. When it comes to consideration, so again, kind of videos, pre-rolls, videos, app installs, web traffic, again, a great place for that too. So if you're looking to get video views, you're trying to pre-roll video, get installs, downloads, all those different types of things, engagement with followers by category, Twitter is also a place you can use. And then from a conversion, it does bring users to the app or the website. So if you're looking to, if your call to action or conversion metric is really more so driven not on sale, but on direction. So if you're looking to direct your audience to a specific place, whether it's an app or a website, Twitter can be your place too. So it's good for conversion in the sense of driving and funneling traffic versus maybe a sale. So if you're looking to sell a shirt or sell a product, maybe not it, but if you're looking to drive traffic, this could be a platform for you. So with that said, let's get into it. So when quickly as you select Twitter as your potential ad platform, you're going to reach a fork in the road. And that fork in the road is really two different options. You can do Twitter Promote, or you can do a Twitter ad campaign. So what we're trying to do here is give you a little context, and we'll get into more detail. But with Twitter Promote, what it does is it automatically promotes your tweets for you. And just a thing to know, if you're new to the platform, this service is actually no longer available. So if you don't have a Twitter account now and you're looking to create one, unfortunately, this Twitter Promote feature won't be available. We don't know if that's an end all be all, but that's just something to keep in mind as you're planning your strategy around ad campaigns. And then there's Twitter ad campaigns. And this channel, or this fork in the road, this street, allows you to set up campaigns for yourself, as you might do in like a Facebook ad manager, and it helps you base it on your actual objectives. So if your objective is conversion through site traffic to your website, you can kind of tailor your marketing objective to your campaign. So let's get into Twitter Promote. So the Twitter algorithm, what it does, and I think we actually touched on this in one of our first sessions, but it automatically promotes the tweets that you specified for your audience. So if you've gone in, you said, okay, this is the audience I'm trying to specifically target, what the algorithm will do is automatically promote your tweets to that demographic, to that follower base, to that audience. And what it will do is it will promote it for your first 10 days, for 10 daily organic tweets, I'm sorry. So it promotes for the first 10 daily organic tweets. And then from there, it has to pass Twitter quality filter, which I think we talked about in algorithms as well. So Twitter has this quality filter where it kind of feeds and understands and really aggregates and assesses the effectiveness and quality of your tweet. And then from there, it can kind of further promote it. So it promotes your account to attract followers as well. But one caveat, if you're going down this angle, it does come with a cost. As ad manager, it's almost like a pay to play within the Facebook platform. The money you spend, the result you get. So if you put in $5, you get the value there. But as you increase your investment, your potential for reach and success and return on investment increases as well. With the Twitter Promote, it's a cost. So it's a monthly cost of $99 a month. So it's something you want to consider as you're leveraging this as a potential ad channel for you. So that's Twitter Promote. When it comes to ad campaigns, you have Twitter ad campaigns as well. So for this one, you can start by choosing your business objective, right? And making sure that objective also aligns with your business goals. So that's what you want to do first, right? Understand your goal as a business, whether it's to increase sales, to generate awareness. You want to make sure you understand your goal, and then from there, tailor your ad campaign within Twitter, the objective around that goal. So you can select existing organic content. So if you have great content that you've already tweeted that lives on Twitter, you can select that to promote as part of the ad campaign, or you can create tweets specifically for the ad as well. So you can do organic ads that you've already created that you feel are synonymous with the ad you're trying to do and the goal you're trying to accomplish, or you can create a brand new ad as well. What we want to recommend here though, is that you run separate campaigns for desktop and mobile experiences. Why? Is because it improves your chances of better conversion rates, because the experience on the user end is a little different. So if you're planning to run campaigns targeting mobile users, you might want to think about how you might curate that to a mobile user versus a desktop user. So that's something we want to keep in mind. That's not necessarily as relevant when we think about other platforms, but for Twitter, it's something we definitely want you to think about. Okay? So that's Twitter. And then lastly, but not least, LinkedIn. And I'm pretty excited about this topic because LinkedIn is actively looking to improve their marketing platform, and they've made great strides in the last few years. And they have some cool kind of different tactics that you can leverage. Now, LinkedIn, why we want to start is it's a great platform for the business professional or just the working professional. So given that the audience has those options, it's really tailored for that audience. And what you're able to do is you're able to actually base your campaign on qualifications like job title or seniority. So if you have a workshop or webinar series or a live event that you're trying to promote and you're looking to target, senior executives, you can actually build within your ad targeting for senior executives, folks that are more established in their careers and might lend to the audience you're trying to target. So something to keep in mind, but let's get into it. Just like the others, we'll level, right? So if we have awareness, consideration, and conversion. For awareness, this is again a great way to create more awareness for your company. So not necessarily a sale or promotion, but for your company or brand as a whole. So if you're looking to amplify yourself and draw awareness to your company, this is a great platform for that. From a consideration perspective, if you're looking to drive visits, increase engagement, or also look to encourage video views, this is a place for you as well. LinkedIn can work. And then lastly, from a conversion perspective, it allows you to collect leads. It's a great way for collecting leads, but also website conversions. So if you're looking to generate leads that can transform into audience members or potential, customers down the line, a good conversion tactic and platform for you. But if you're also trying to get people to go to your website, it's a good platform as well. So those are things to consider as we kind of really get into the details here. So sponsored content, this is I guess the first one to speak about. Some audience members might have experienced it, but what it does is it really displays the news and your information within your news feed on desktop or mobile. So the experiences are very, I guess, similar in nature in the sense that the visual element, as you can see here, I've tried to include a photo that kind of shows both, but you can see the ad from a desktop version and then from a mobile version, very similar, but just kind of different layout. So these ads will be displayed in that feed. So that feed, when you first open up LinkedIn, that's where your ad will appear. It enables your content to get in front of a larger audience and showcase your brand too. So if you're trying to promote it and get it to the top and get it in front of your targeted audience, LinkedIn has the capability to do that with sponsored content. And then also you can use single images, you can use videos, you can use carousel ads. So just like some of the features in Instagram, it's not as complex, right? So you're not going to get the collection or things like that, but it will give you the opportunity to really play around with single imagery, carousel imagery, videos, different things like that. So it does give some good content there. One thing and one tip though, is that to also stay under 150 characters. And also studies have shown to use large images. So specifically 1200 by 625 pixels has been a good benchmark to actually boost engagement. So you want to have one, stay under 150 characters, and then two, use as large imagery as you can, because the larger the imagery, as you can see for the desktop, there's a very strong desktop user base on LinkedIn. And also within the app itself, there's a lot of space for photography and for imagery. So try to take advantage of that and use large images if you can. Okay. Next up is sponsored InMails. So just like you have the Messenger apps within Facebook, you can actually send ads directly to your targeted audience's InMail. So if you're not familiar, LinkedIn has an InMail or inbox messaging feature where you have your own inbox where you can send direct messages to individuals on the platform from different companies or freelancers, whatever have you. Just like you could send a direct message to someone you might know or follow. You can also target a sponsored InMail. So similar to what you might see in the images and examples I've included here on the right, how it will appear is when you send this type of ad out, it'll go directly into your targeted audience's InMail. And you can have similar to other platforms, you'll have a call to action. So this one is trying to promote you to register for an event. And again, LinkedIn is a great place to promote events that you're having. So you can include a registration now link there, or you can get a little even more creative where you have an ad here with imagery and you have specific call to action buttons where it's like, hey, sign up for a demo. So if you're a business that is developing a platform for simplifying their ad creation, right? You might want to create a demo. So you might want folks to sign up for one. So having call to actions in your messaging, so it's so easy to do it, is a great tactic. So again, it goes directly to users. Users can only receive ads, so you have to be a user of the platform to do it. So you have to have an active LinkedIn account. So you might want to think about that. And then lastly, stay under with these ads. You want to stay under 500 characters, and that will improve your chances of a click-through rate. So click-through rate really is, if you can stay under 500, it's the right mixture of length but conciseness, so that it gives you a better chance for that user to actually click and actually engage with what your call to action is. So as you're doing sponsored InMails, think about that. Okay. So next we have text ads. So another feature here within LinkedIn is text ads. So here we've included another example here. So with this ad type, it really consists of smaller ads and smaller fonts that appear at the top right of your feed. So if you're on your feed within LinkedIn or on your desktop, you'll have in the top right, you might see some ads there, things that you might be interested in. This is where these will show. So it's a little more subtle, it's a little smaller, but again, it's just another creative way to do it. It only appears for desktop users. So again, LinkedIn has a pretty strong desktop user base. So it doesn't really eliminate a lot of users, but it's something to consider, right? So, you want to think about that when you're trying to divvy up your ad budget and you're thinking about how much you should allocate. Text ads are a great thing to test out and see if it's effective, but also understand that it only lives on desktop and not mobile. So it does kind of shrink your engagement a little bit compared to others. And then these ads are thumbnail images. So it's really 50 by 50 pixels. So as you can see here, they're thumbnails, icons. So it's a little smaller, so you're not going to get a very big, large, compelling image in here. So think about that when you're trying to promote something. So here, propelling your job search, right? It's easy to include an icon for that. But if you're trying to really promote something that needs imagery to really sell it, this might not be the avenue for you. But if you're looking to diversify your ad budget, try something different, and whatever you're trying to promote can be communicated in a simplistic form from an imagery perspective, this might be a route for you. So here you see simple prototyping, right? Another example. So something to think about. And then lastly, dynamic ads. So I really thought this was a very interesting thing that LinkedIn is added to their marketing suite. But with this ad type, you can include automatic personalization specifically for each of your prospects. So essentially, your ad experience from a receiving end is curated to their characteristics or their mix-up. So it's a very dynamic way to really curate an ad in an automatic fashion. So it's much more personalized. It feels much more bespoke, and likely it also probably improves how much it might resonate to your targeted audience. So what you can do here is you can target users personally and directly and encourage them to follow you, to read your thought leadership. So if you're I know we have a few folks here that are in the news space. So if you're using LinkedIn as a way to highlight articles that you're writing or include, dialogue or conversation, if this is a great way to promote that type of content, and also apply for jobs. So if you're actively looking to recruit and to build out your team, you can promote your jobs in this way too. So if you know that you're looking for folks with a certain level of experience and background, you can do that here too. And you could also download content. So we do encourage you, if you have needs in this way, to try that out as well. A very interesting dynamic, as the name says, to try. So we do encourage you to check that out as well. And before we get to thank you, we do want to open it up. I know the chat has been on fire. I've been watching it. So if there are any remaining questions, and I know you ran a couple minutes over here, we'd love to answer them if you have any questions.
Feel free to unmute if you have a question that you just want to ask out loud or drop it in the chat. I think I addressed everything in the chat, but if there's one that I missed, please keep me honest on it.
Terry Wisdom from Harlem Network News. How's everybody today?
Hi, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Cool. Listen, put your information in the chat again. I know you've done it 100 times, but I need to get with you for consultation because Facebook is like completely confusing to me, the way it's laid out. And, even all of the things that you were talking about, the ads, I guess I have to test it out and figure out, but do they have like templates for those different kinds of ads you were talking about?
Yeah, they actually, so in terms of templates, what they'll do is when you're going to go set them up, they'll give you just like the framework and you kind of just drop the information in there of what you want. As I mentioned to someone in the chat, what's really good about them is that they give you a preview of how it'll look before you actually post it. So at least you'll be able to kind of see where it's going to run, how it could look, and then you kind of make a judgment call from there what you want to tweak. But in terms of templates, there's nothing that is like cookie cutter where it's like input here and then it just goes out.
Right.
But it does give you all of the actual like inputs that you can put to know where certain information goes and how to use it.
Okay, because I was thinking just in terms of the carousel thing that you spoke about, and then dropping like the slide thing in and whatever the other ones are. You know what I'm saying? You got to build that yourself and put it in, or are they saying, okay, this is for the carousel or whatever?
Yep,
That's
exactly.
the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once you pick your ad type, the form, I guess it's probably very synonymous with the form. The ink will all be there for you, but if you're referring to like the imagery itself, what it's going to look like to your audience, that you drop in like your content. So if you have a photo you're looking for, you might want to upload that, put that in there. And then you mentioned you can always go and see what it looks like to make sure it's what you're trying to accomplish. Or you
Okay, okay, that's helpful. Also, I know like conceptually what algorithm is, but you know, because you're saying that, oh, algorithm, but I'm not really internalizing like what that means. So can you explain that? Thank you.
How are we explaining? So an algorithm is almost like it's a formula that is by Facebook. That what effectively it does, it has certain criterias, and based on those criterias and the reactions to whatever content you post, whether organic, like a post you might make just with any imagery you select, or an ad campaign, based on the criteria, the response, and how much your audience is engaging with it, how much they're viewing it, liking it, responding to it, and commenting. Those algorithms have certain criteria, and based on the formula that that platform has, it will amplify that content more. So if you have a very thought-provoking and well-curated post that is an instant hit and it's being engaged with, the algorithm will pick that up. And what it will do is it will amplify that post more based on the criteria. So think of it like, hey, if it gets engagement, if it checks these 4 boxes, we're going to amplify that more because clearly this content is resonating. The platform is kind of helping you along. So internally, what that means for us is that we have to, as we're making content and posting, we have to think about the algorithm to understand how we can make our posts fit that formula better. So if the algorithm likes a certain amount of hashtags, we have to make sure that we're writing our captions and hashtags in that way, because the more that we fit within it and the more we are tailored to it and get that engagement, the more our post will reach.
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of like think of it almost as a formula with criteria, and based on it, if you're succeeding, it pushes your content more. For you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I mean, like I said, I understood it conceptually, but thank you for breaking it down. And yeah, this is all good. There's just so much.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
eventually, I know it'll all be secondhand. But it's just a lot, and it's living in a whole different world. So yeah, mental, physical.
No problem. That's what this is for.
Yeah. Okay, so put your stuff in the chat, and hopefully I'll be able to get to you this week. And I really appreciate this. This is all absolutely incredible. Somebody gave me a training on Clubhouse too, so I'm like,
Oh, so now you're ready to go. You got
oh yeah. So okay, but put your stuff in, and thank you so much, and thank you Nicole and Park to Park for making this happen. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks for joining.
All right.
Habiba, I have a question about how far you can drill down. Is it by race, income,
So they won't let you do by race.
Like sexual present, like it to me, it's like, wow, are they tracking this data about all of us? Like, this is crazy.
Well, they definitely are, first off. They definitely are. But to answer your question, so if you remember, Facebook's been in the news a lot lately because of the privacy information. And so they're not going to allow you to drill down to like race, sexual orientation, really anything that's kind of like a little bit more of a gray area. But what they will allow you to do is, based off behaviors and interests, you can assume and infer that someone is a certain race or a certain sexual orientation based off of the type of content that they engage with and the type of content that they follow. So for example, when we were working with a client in the past who very specifically wanted to be able to reach, Black people who were interested, let's say Black women aged 25 to 45. Since you can't drill down to Black women, a lot of the interest segments that we added in were, love and hip hop, like a lot of certain reality shows that we know are going to over-index for Black women, not necessarily exclusively. And so a way that you can kind of get a little creative with it is just kind of put yourself in the shoes of that target audience. What are the things that you watch? What are the pages that you follow? What are the, the things that you would do on exactly Housewives, exactly. And then you add those into your targeting segment. And so while it's not necessarily going to give you a readout to be able to say, Black women over indexed against my content, it is going to let you know that people who watch a lot of Real Housewives, for example, or people who follow, I'm trying to think of another one for orientation. Okay, Queer Eye for the straight guy. That's going to over-index against people of the LGBTQ community, but it's not going to be exclusive to them. And so you're going to get a large concentration of them, but you're not going to only reach those people. Hopefully that makes sense. For income, that's also something that, you don't put that information necessarily in your profile on your Facebook or Instagram. So they don't necessarily have that information either to be able to target you. However, there's a lot of like third-party data that Facebook has access to, which is really why they were getting in trouble, to be honest. They were being able to target people of lower incomes, higher incomes, based off of information from like credit card companies and other third parties who actually have this data. And so they made it a lot harder to be able to do it by income. But what you can do is if you go into the platform, there's certain behavioral information that you can also add in as filters that can almost be a proxy, like for example, exactly college degree, those types of things. Again, you can infer that stuff, but no, because of like compliance issues, you're not able to just say, I only want to target people who make under 50K. Because if you think about it, it may not be you who wants to use that in a predatory way, but that's how what they call the Russian bots and all that, that's how they essentially target people to be able to hit them with certain types of messaging that could have negative effects. But I would say look for like education. If you're looking for like a slightly more affluent person, homeowners, you can also potentially find in there. But I would say just play around in the platform to be able to see like how far you can get. But the reality is that you're only going to be able to get so far because there's a lot of compliance issues. In Harlem Hoops, I want to run an ad in Harlem, but want to expand throughout up to Atlanta. What would I put as the location? So you could actually put more than one location. So let's just say you want to reach people in Harlem, you want to reach people in Detroit, you want to reach people in Atlanta. In that location, you can literally just type in Harlem, New York, or NYC. That's going to give you a little bit broader because I don't actually think they allow you to do specifically Harlem unless someone puts that they live in Harlem. So I would actually suggest you do like Manhattan or New York City broadly, but then you type that one in, and then you also type in Atlanta metro area, and it's going to allow you to combine those. And yep, exactly. That's a great suggestion. You can also do zip codes. But I would say give yourself kind of the biggest pool and start with New York City, and then add in some layers of things that may drill it down a little bit more to get you to Harlem. And then you could do the same thing for Atlanta and any other location.
Can I have a question with regards to the targeting. Sometimes does it matter where you set the target? Because sometimes if I'm on my phone, for example, and I go to Boost and I try to formulate the targeting there, it seems very limited in terms of my choices versus someplace else I've been.
Yeah. And exactly what you're saying is how it goes, unfortunately. So what Facebook and Instagram make it really easy for you to do with the Boost is that you can quickly just like spread it at mass. But if you want to get a little bit more sophisticated, that's where they push you towards their ad campaign manager, where a lot of the stuff that we were showing you, it's within there and you can get really sophisticated. Boosting is really just meant to like really quickly put some money behind getting more people to see it.
Okay. So if I go to the ads manager and I set, because I've been able to set various targets, then will I see that come up on my Boost? Like, because it's a preset?
No, they're going to be separate.
But can I still boost instead of creating an ad?
Yeah, you can still boost, you can still boost. But I would just say, based off exactly the experience that you're having, it's going to give you like within 25 miles, or like it's going to give you like a certain parameter, but it's not going to let you get as sophisticated as like, being able to put multiple targets, or it's going to be able to say like New York City. It's going to say New York State within 5 miles, within 10 miles. it'll give you that because it's meant to be quick. But if you're looking to get that level of granularity, I would suggest you use the ads manager.
Okay.
So also in Facebook, you can boost as well on Facebook if you're on a computer, and you actually may be able to get a little bit more sophisticated than you can on your phone. The phone is going to be a little bit more limiting just because it's meant to be quick. But if you have a post that you've posted on your page and you go to it on your computer and you hit boost, it may actually allow you to get a little bit more granular.
Can I do the same with Instagram, or can I have it once I do it on Facebook? No.
No, Instagram is going to be mobile first.
Okay.
But if you do ads manager on your computer, you can do Instagram there as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
No problem. And the last question, can you edit the boost to include more targeting? No, once you hit that boost, it's gone. So I would suggest if you're going to do it, the boost, obviously it's a little bit more limiting. Make sure that you're very specific about where you want it to target, because once you hit that button, it's very hard for it to stop. And so that's where with the ads manager, it's a little bit more sophisticated, and it actually allows you to pause and resume a lot more quickly than boosting will. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, as well as subscribe to our YouTube for when these videos are ready.
Yeah, thank you guys. They're also, I've been uploading them to Harlem Park to Parks YouTube as well. So you have both two places you guys can find it. And, you know, we will of course send it out in a couple days after the guys get a chance to edit the video. So thank you all. It's a beautiful day. Get outside, get some fresh air before you get back to your social media for the day. Right? So anyway, thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.